Question from Sergio Arispe. He says, hey guys, I hope you're both doing well. Would selling Odegaard this summer be a Bartomeu level transfer? Also, from my own observation, Odegaard seems to be the opposite of Asensio in that the more a team needs him, the better he is and the brighter he shines. We saw that with La Real before he got injured last season and Arsenal now. I feel that this goes in hand with his ability to boss the midfield and lead the team. Would we ever see that side of Odegaard with Kroos and Modric also in the midfield? I somehow can't imagine him telling Modric where to go and what to do.
Well, the first question, would selling Odegaard this summer be a Bartomeu level transfer? That depends on the transfer fee. I said a week ago that I would honestly pull the trigger on a 50 million offer if that money were to be used on to fund either Mbappe or Haaland. Obviously, if Real Madrid cannot make this latter part of my premise work, then I wouldn't. But if Real Madrid are missing those 40 million and they receive an offer for Odegaard, I would definitely pull the trigger on that. So I wouldn't label or grade that kind of deal a failure. I think that getting that kind of money for a player of Odegaard's age in this current transfer context and financial context shouldn't be called a failure.
Like the question I think is essentially can Odegaard be the alpha at Real Madrid, because he has been at Real Sociedad and Arsenal. You think the answer is no, or
I think the answer is no. Yeah, I think the answer is he's potentially he's just not good enough to reach the level of Modric and Kroos. Now, can he be still a very important player in Real Madrid's midfield for many years to come? That's for sure. But if the fans are expecting Odegaard to reach the level of either Modric or Kroos, I think they're wrong, and I think he won't be that kind of player who leading Real Madrid's midfield in many years. I don't think he's that good, to be honest.
So I disagree, but I agree. So I think, so with the alphaness at Real Madrid, I think it will come with time. It's not something we're going to know right away, but I will say I think he's the type of player who wouldn't be shy to take the reins and instruct players to be in certain positions and stuff. So Odegaard to me gives me Luka Doncic vibes, just in terms of his leadership ability and his maturity. So like what I mean by that is like Luka Doncic he was a teenager, he was the captain of Real Madrid. Every older player, including former NBA players, would look up to him. He was a leader, and he went to Dallas, and right away not like right away, but pretty much right away was that at Dallas too, which is an incredible jump. I think Odegaard has that.
Yeah, but
Go.
Just
Go
one
ahead.
quick point, Killian. But he's not leading a great team, though. You know what I'm saying? He's not leading a championship caliber team.
Don't you feel that's inevitable?
We're talking about.
Don't you think it's inevitable that he will lead Dallas to the finals at the very least?
I'm not sure. Obviously, it depends a lot on how Dallas builds the whole roster, and the same could be said about Odegaard and Real Madrid. But I don't think my point here about Odegaard is that I don't think he's good enough to lead a club like Real Madrid, as big as Real Madrid. Obviously, he's good enough to lead other midfields, maybe Arsenal's midfield or other big clubs midfield. But in terms of Real Madrid and the status of a club as big as Real Madrid, I'm not sure. And the same can be said about Doncic. I'm not sure if he's good enough to single-handedly carry a team into the NBA Finals. I'm not sure. I like Doncic's odds more than Odegaard's. That's for sure. I'm not sure that Odegaard.
Well, yeah.
If Odegaard will ever be that kind of player to lead a club as big as Real Madrid.
Well, yeah. I mean, in some respect, it's an unfair comparison because Doncic is already probably destined to be one of the greatest players to ever play basketball, which is Odegaard is not there with football, obviously. I just meant kind of in the leadership ability. But so where I agree with you is that he won't reach Modric and Kroos' level. I don't think. I'd love to be proven wrong on that. But I also think part of it is that it's a little bit unfair to have that barometer, because I don't think it's very possible we may not see a Real Madrid midfielder ever reach the heights of Modric, Kroos again in our lifetime, for example. Right. That's possible.
True.
So where do we draw the line and say, like, okay, well, whoever it is, they need to be a leader, even if they don't reach that height, So that's why I think it's a little bit unfair as well, because he's just a young kid, and like if you have to be as good as Modric and Kroos play for Real Madrid, I understand that there's one side of the argument of people who will say, well, of course this is Real Madrid, this is what the standards are, and I agree with that, but I also think Modric and Kroos and players like Ronaldo will have skewed our standards a little bit. If you look back through Real Madrid's history, like Modric and Kroos, Modric is the best midfielder we've ever had, probably. Central midfielder.
Yeah.
And Kroos may be like 2 or 3, possibly, So we have to remember that standard is a little bit raised here with these two. So is it okay if Odegaard doesn't reach that level? And if he doesn't, maybe he does, I don't know. It's possible he reaches something close to it. If I'm looking at Real Madrid's, if I'm looking at the central midfielders around the world right now, let me flip this question to you, Lucas. If you had to build your midfield around 1 or 2 players right now that we don't have in our team, would Odegaard be one of them? Because to me, it would be. He would be. And if he wasn't a Real Madrid player, he's the type of person you would want to pay big money for.
I'm not sure. I don't. To be honest, I'm not talking this entire discussion of Odegaard reaching Modric and Kroos level. As you mentioned, you made a really good point. It's pretty much pointless, because it's almost impossible, and it's so unfair for us to ask Odegaard to reach that kind of level. All I'm saying is, I don't think Odegaard is good enough to lead the midfield of a team competing for the Champions League title. He's definitely good enough to play in that midfield. But to lead that midfield and to be the main star of the midfield of a Champions League contender, I have concerns. And your question about would you find any other midfield around the world who you would rather build your entire midfield around? Yes, De Bruyne probably. Other than that,
he's a little bit older
tough,
though.
I know.
Yeah, like the very first midfield that comes to my mind that we don't have is De Bruyne. But I guess in terms of timeline, because Odegaard's a little younger. So I don't know. I'm just gonna say I disagree with you, and I don't have any proof of this, because the only way we'll know is through time. Time will tell us who was right and who was wrong. I just get a vibe from Odegaard that I think he's kind of a captain material. I think if you give him, like, let's fast forward when he's 29, right? If he's 29, far into the future, I feel like he is that type of player who would lead you. But time will tell. I have no proof of that. There's just a complete hunch. We'll see.
Personality-wise, I might agree with you, but we probably disagree on the quality point of view. I'm not ready to call him that kind of player in terms of his quality and his potential. I think he's a great player. He's a great prospect for sure. One you probably want to keep around unless a big offer comes your way. But again, we're talking about leading Real Madrid's midfield for many years to come, and that's where I have concerns.
Well, we'll circle back to this, because I think Odegaard will come up in a question later in the mailbag. I will just say this though. There's another, I think, point worth pointing out, is that if he's not like the alpha, the number 1A, the leader, that's probably okay too. Like, it's like, one of the players who's going to come up in the mailbag later is Carvajal. I don't care that he's not Sergio Ramos, but I love that he is a leader, right? So you don't have to have he doesn't have to be the absolute apex of like the leadership kind of mantle, but he can be a leader. So we don't have to dramatize it either.